first Resident Evil movie was a good experience. I wish I could say the same about its sequels, but as a Resident Evil fan from the start, I can't be biased and say that everything Resident Evil related is good. The first film isn't perfect either, but it is enjoyable to watch. I will be separately reviewing every movie that came out based on Resident Evil, and today we're taking off with the first film, which came out in 2002. In 2002, the only Resident Evil games we had that had came out so far was the Resident Evil Trilogy, Code Veronica, Zero, the RE1 remake, Gaiden, and Survivor 1 and 2. I guess that's a lot of Resident Evil games already. So when a movie came out, the director had plenty of Resident Evil content to make the very first live-action movie on this horror franchise. So let's get started with the movie and see how the beginning played out. First of all, the way the film begins, it definitely feels like this movie is going the right direction. Showing us the Umbrella logo with text that says confidential report. Subject: the events leading to the incident in Raccoon City. Holy shit, this feels like we're right at home. I think we're in for a welcoming surprise. And what makes this movie even more enjoyable is that kick-ass soundtrack score provided by Marilyn Manson. We even get a similar narration like the ones in the Resident Evil classics.
At the beginning of the 21st century, the Umbrella Corporation had become the largest commercial entity in the United States.
The narrator wasn't in the end credits, so I looked up the uncredited cast, and the narrator was voiced by Jason Isaacs. But what's unexpected is that it also mentions that the narrator was Dr. William Birkin. Now, I've seen the first 4 or 5 live-action RE films, and I do know that William Birkin does not appear in those movies. So what was this all about? Was it just a mistake? An Easter egg from IMDb? Or was there originally a role for Dr. William Birkin to appear in this movie or the next? The narrator explains how big the Umbrella Corporation is, which is good to bring up to those who aren't familiar with the Resident Evil story. Then we see the title sequence, which is truly badass. It feels like it's definitely iconic. If the Resident Evil live-action films actually do get remade, I wonder how they'll top this off. Because this does feel like the perfect rendition of the opening intro for a Resident Evil live-action film. By the way, those virus and antivirus test tubes look amazing. All they had to do was put some water in a test tube, add a little bit of food coloring, and call it a virus. But instead, they improvised, made the virus test tubes look even better than the video game versions. They look so appealing. Then the shot of the claw moving the virus tubes in that transport case reminds me of the puzzle in Resident Evil 2 where you need to make the main fuse in the Umbrella lab. I don't know if this was done as a reference to that specific puzzle, but if so, it's perfect. As soon as the mysterious man takes the transport case with the virus samples, he breaks one of the T-viruses in that room and exits the building before the panic ensues. Right away, we see that the virus starts to go through the air vents, and the dogs in their cages notice it, and they all start barking in hopes of getting the attention of the workers. But the dogs aren't the only ones that know about the problem. It turns out that the Umbrella Lab is in full control of an AI known as the Red Queen. And the Red Queen takes action by doing what needs to be done: quarantine everything and prevent the virus from spreading by any means necessary. Interesting. Instead of Umbrella executives screwing over their employees, which leads to both the Umbrella Lab and Spencer Mansion to be infested with their own undead employees. Here, it's actually an artificial intelligence computer that took action and led to zombies in a secret lab and a mansion. That's not bad at all. I like it. It's a small change that can leave fans of the Resident Evil franchise get a little twist in their beloved RE1 storyline. It's not a huge change that could butcher the entire movie. That AI was created by Umbrella. There's still someone in a much higher position taking action, which is actually better than the way the original Resident Evil storyline goes with the person in charge of Umbrella. In the game series, the owner of Umbrella was Oswald E. Spencer. He only appeared in Resident Evil 5, but he wasn't exactly a threatening looking guy. He was more like Peter Whalen, the old version. And they killed him off. Albert Wesker and William Birkin were both high-powered employees. We never found out who was currently in charge of the Umbrella Company, so maybe these movies have something better to offer. Who is in charge of the company? I literally have no idea for both the games and the movies. In the games, the company just died because of stocks. In the movies, well, I stopped watching these movies after Afterlife. I just remember that I did not like what I was seeing, so I decided to just stop watching the next sequels, because it didn't look like the director was going to get anything right about the franchise. But now that my knowledge of the franchise has expanded, I'm gonna fully analyze these movies and see if they have some potential, or if they just kept butchering the name over and over. So the Umbrella employees start getting killed off. We get an intense elevator scene, and then finally get to the main character's intro. This is not Jill Valentine. It's Alice, a character that was solely made for the Resident Evil live-action films. I'm not sure why the director decided to make the main character be a completely different character that we've never seen before in the games. Could it be because he has a much bigger plan? Nah, that's his wife. Best and cheapest way to make a movie series is by making your spouse be the protagonist. So Mila Jovovich is the protagonist, and she can't remember who she is, or what is going on. All because she was drugged by the Red Queen. But for some reason, the Red Queen did not kill her like it did with every other employee. I don't know if this is because everything must be convenient for the protagonist, or the AI did not want to kill anyone outside the quarantine zone. Maybe I'm digging a little too deep into this. Man, it's a shame that we did not get an exact replica of the Umbrella Lab or the Spencer Mansion, but since the movie version is going for a little bit of a different approach, then I think it's at least good to see that they are included in the movie. Because it would be a shame if the first Resident Evil film did not take place in the Spencer Mansion or an Umbrella Lab. So after Alice looks around at the empty mansion, sadly, she is then confronted by a guy named Matt, who is being hunted down by a group of Umbrella mercenaries. They're known as commandos, but their uniforms look like the USS Special Agents. We'll just call them mercenaries since they're expendable, and we don't want to confuse anyone with this commando. They apprehend both Matt and Alice, then take them along to complete their mission. Seeing as Umbrella took drastic measures the moment the virus had been leaked, you'd think that the mercenaries would simply shoot them both and get on with their mission, instead of babysitting them while they have to deal with their very important assignment. But they go along anyway, and even though they seemed like tough guys, the moment they remove their gas masks, all that toughness goes away. Except for Michelle Rodriguez, she can't seem to turn it off.
Lonely.
We are then shown what their mission objective is, and shown that the Umbrella Lab is deep underground, but it's also known as the Hive. A neat surprise. As they proceed through the Hive, I can't argue that it looks quite impressive. In my first time watching, I was hoping to see like an experiment room so we can see examples of failed T-virus experiments, but I guess they were going with a different atmospheric approach. This is a very large underground lab which appears to be completely abandoned. That's supposed to creep you out. But it can't compare to the atmosphere introduced in the first game, the remake. That was something I was hoping to see with the movie, because if Capcom could make it even scarier with the remake, then a movie set should not be a problem, right? Moving on, the mercenaries find a new survivor and decide to bring him along as well. Just like Alice, he doesn't remember a thing. We see a room filled with water and bodies. The team then splits into two teams, and now we get our first action scene. It's the coolest scene in the movie, but it's not with the zombies. It's the AI's self-defense systems. The moment the doors automatically begin closing, you know something's about to happen. And seeing what the Red Queen has done before to make sure that no one survived, then you know that it's about to get ugly. A laser swiftly moves across to the other end of the room, taking out one soldier with this guy's fingers. The intensity grows as we see the laser rapidly appear, but this time it appears from below, aiming towards their feet. One soldier jumps to avoid it, and suddenly, the laser moves up, slicing him in half. First you thought that all you needed to do to avoid the laser was either duck or jump, but now it's showing us that it can move up and down while it proceeds towards the other side. So now only one is left alive as he managed to pull this off. And while doing this, Kaplan is trying to disable the computer's defense systems, but he doesn't do so well under pressure. Kinda reminds me of Brad Vickers. You know what? Maybe I'm overthinking this, but is there any chance that the director Paul W.S. Anderson chose to split the team into two groups just to kind of make it seem like it's the Alpha team and Bravo team. Because if anything, that means that this was a reference to the Bravo team, as most of the members were easily killed off. Again, I'm sure I'm probably overthinking this, but let me know if you agree or disagree. Going back to the laser scene, the next laser round is about to begin, and now we know that the laser is very unpredictable. There's no telling what it'll do next. Will it move up and down as it reaches the other side? Will one manage to dodge it and be the only soldier that survived this deadly trap? That is insane. Now we know that there's no way he could dodge this laser, and it's all up to Kaplan to deactivate it and save his commander in the nick of time. Well, Kaplan disables it, but the laser shuts off after reaching the other side. For a moment there you think, did it actually cut through him? Or did it shut off and it was just the light of the laser that breezed around him? But no, we see that he got the worst death by the laser trap. Even after viewing this movie so many times, it still bums me out to see this guy get killed off in the laser room. But it was a worthy surprise, I'll tell you that. It would have been great to see this character make it live till the end, but building up his character just to kill him off 30 minutes into the movie? What a deadly twist. One thing for sure is that nobody saw this coming. Almost like a Resident Evil puzzle trap. I used to think that it shouldn't belong in the movie simply because this laser trap does not appear in the first game, but since this version of RE1 has a computer AI taking action, this deadly trap does not feel out of place. It actually makes the Red Queen seem even scarier than its previous countermeasures, excluding the elevator that purposely cut that woman's head off. But now that most of the mercenaries are dead, nobody wants to go through that laser room to shut down the Red Queen. Quite suspenseful. And again, still no sign of zombies. But the movie is doing pretty good so far, so I can't complain. Wait a minute, did this soldier die by getting his 4 fingers sliced off? I think he passes out, but this shouldn't have been enough to kill him. You might say that he was scared to death by the fact that 10 seconds ago he had all of his fingers. But that doesn't make sense, does it? And you can't say that the laser sliced him into pieces when it was going after 1. Oh yeah, his name is 1. We're only a little over 30 minutes into the movie and there's still so much to talk about.
We're all gonna die down here.
So in the first part of the movie review, we left off after the mercenaries were taken out by the AI's self-defense systems, including this guy. As you can see in this shot here, the soldier that got his fingers lasered off was not far back enough to get killed by the fence laser, and he's not too close to have gotten killed by the second laser that started off below either. So he literally died from shock. I know I'm still poking at this guy's corpse because I can't believe he actually died this way. Some of you are saying that he actually did die from shock. I thought that at first, but personally, I just can't picture anyone dying this fast after losing 4 fingers. I feel like he could have simply gotten back up, picked up his fingers, put them in a pocket pouch, and go on with the mission. I heard that doctors can actually put your fingers back on as long as you brought them with you. Also, the laser seemed to have prevented them from bleeding as it cauterized the flesh, so you can't even say that he would bleed out. I'm not exactly sure how long you have until you can put your fingers back on, but for a tough guy commando over here, you'd expect him to buck up and pull himself together. It should be easier than 1 over here. The last thing I can say about this guy is that he could have been in a band called Four Fingerless Death Punch. Moving on, one thing I forgot to mention about this area here is that right after the team split into 2 groups, Alice approached one of the containment units and we get a close glimpse at an actual licker. The lickers were introduced in the Resident Evil 2 game, so instead it should have been a BOW hunter, but as a much bigger fan of RE2, I'm glad they went with the licker. So now Kaplan and Alice proceed to shut down the Red Queen, which unlocks every door that was keeping the employees from getting out. Now they've become the living dead, so finally we get to see the very first zombie in the movie franchise. As the rest of the team begin to hear noises, Rain goes off on her own to check and see where that noise was coming from. She finds a survivor, but then it turns out to be the first zombie they encounter. The way it led towards revealing the zombie was done in a way where it looked like it was a survivor and not a zombie. In the Resident Evil 1 game, they reveal the first zombie by seeing its back turned towards the main character, and then we noticed that this rotting corpse is devouring the flesh of Bravo team member Kenneth Sullivan. I'm not sure if it would have been a shock to see the first zombie eating another person the same way as it was done in the first game, but I guess it would have been an obvious giveaway that this person was a zombie. But it also could have been taken as yet another reference to the game. So Rain approaches a survivor, she gets bit in her hand, and then the undead employee takes her down and tries to continue biting her. Luckily, JD shows up and pulls her off of Rain and tries to reason with her, not knowing what's happened to this employee. But he then fires 2 bullets at her legs to try and stop her from getting close. But this does no effect of stopping her. So both JD and Rain unload as many rounds as they can to put her down for good. After the rest of the team shows up, they explain what just happened, and when JD goes over to look at the body, it's gone. Matt examines the blood of the undead employee and realizes that it's coagulated, giving them their first clue, like with Barry and Jill in the game. Only here, they don't have time to analyze the blood any further, as the rest of the undead employees begin approaching them from every direction. When the rest of the zombies are revealed, we see a few detailed zombies at work as a reference to the zombies in the games. Unfortunately, not every zombie has this amount of details put into them. Most of them just look pale with a few spots of blood on them, but these ones weren't bad at all. I was really hoping to see more zombies look like this. After all, the zombie dogs would have easily devoured most employees before they'd become zombies themselves. But anyways, Rain is once again confronted by that same zombie from before, and this time she breaks her neck, which keeps her from getting back up. Now before we take a look at what happens next, let's just remember that earlier, both JD and Rain fired a good quantity of ammunition on this one zombie alone, showing us that even though every mercenary is fully armed with automatic submachine guns, that won't indicate that they have the upper hand. But instead, they're gonna fire countless rounds on zombies that come closest towards them. And even though Rain just showed them that after she broke the neck of the first zombie, this should have clued her into knowing that they should shoot them in the head, because bullets did not work when they shot her legs. Bullets did not stop her when they shot her multiple times in the chest, but what did stop her was by breaking her neck. Sadly, they don't realize this and do exactly what we were hoping they wouldn't. But that's alright, as it builds up even more suspense when you see them put multiple rounds through a single zombie just to see it get back up and continue walking. That badass soundtrack composed by Marco Beltrami and Marilyn Manson starts playing, and we get an exciting action-packed scene. Everyone starts to panic as they have no clue what they should do as even more zombies close in on them. And when Rain was taken down by that first zombie, the keys to her handcuffs fell off, and Matt managed to take it before anyone else noticed it. So he then managed to remove the handcuffs after one hell of a struggle, and both Alice and Matt separate from the rest of the team after an explosion goes off. JD, Rain, and Kaplan try using the elevator nearby in hopes of getting it to open, but the only one who knows the code to get it open is Kaplan, which once again cannot focus due to their circumstances. But after getting a hold of himself, JD decides to input the code himself while Kaplan gives him the code out loud. They finally get the door open, and it is revealed that the elevator was completely packed with more zombies. They easily pull JD inside the elevator and commence to devour him alive. Rain tries to pull him out, but gets bitten once again. She then has to retreat with Kaplan and Spence, as there is nothing they can do to stop them from eating him alive. They manage to escape this dangerous area and hide in the room where the Red Queen and the Laser Room are located. They realize that the zombies suddenly appeared because they unlocked every door in the Hive after shutting down the Red Queen. This could be a reference to the games as well, because just like in the games, after something is unlocked, something else will happen in areas you've already gone through. And here, once they shut down the Red Queen, all doors were unlocked, allowing for something new to approach the areas where they've already visited. Another thing that could be a reference to the games as well is that after they lock themselves in the room that connects with the Laser Room, the bodies of the mercenaries that were killed by the defense systems are suddenly gone. And there aren't even traces of zombies devouring the corpses. In fact, it looks like nothing even happened. Even Kaplan mentions that their bodies are missing. So it's not like the director or editor made a mistake. This was done intentionally. So it had to be a reference to the games, as bodies would vanish if you left and re-entered that area. The big zombie face-off took place in a location deep underground in the Hive. This area does have that horror aspect into it, like in the games. In a way, this is the experimentation room, because those containment units have liquors in them. Maybe even other experiments that weren't revealed, especially when we see that there are even more containment units above them. I'm not sure why, but there had to be a reason why there are containment units high above the rest of them. But the design of this area does appear to be quite spooky. We see the floor covered in fog, and this area also looks like a maze. I could only imagine how difficult it must be to get away from zombies in a place like this. Now let's take a look at a few other things that happened during the big zombie scene. When one of the containment units was hit with ammunition, it suddenly blew up. Does that mean that a licker was killed in the process? I always wondered that, considering the fact that we only see a licker inside one of those containment units. Another thing that happened after the explosion went off was that Alice suddenly got a flashback, remembering something that happened before the Hive was contaminated. The visuals seen here give us more references to the first game, like the crow looking to its side and the statue of an angel. There's a statue that looks very similar to this one seen in the room of the first floor where you pick up the map from the statue. There was also a statue like this one seen in the mansion in the movie, which could also be a reference to the statue that was seen in the first floor in the game. For some reason, Matt decides to separate from Alice and even does this like a ninja. But seconds before this happened, we are shown that a licker has escaped from its containment unit. So when Matt decided to separate like a ninja, I first thought that the licker got him. After all, they are in the same location. But that didn't happen. We are then shown a specific location in the Hive, hinting out what lies ahead. These shots work pretty well on telling us exactly that. And seeing as Alice is in this location without a weapon, could spell danger for our protagonist. The crazy thing about these dogs is that they were tough enough to break through their cages, but also this would explain why they look like they're inside out. A zombie dog, or Cerberus if you like to call them by that, ends up showing up. Alice runs over to the nearest room and quickly closes the door behind her. But now the dog keeper in that room tries to attack her, but she suddenly busts out with a martial arts jump kick to the face, sending that zombie dog keeper crashing to the wall, killing it. He doesn't get back up, so once again I'm left confused, wondering as to why a kick to the face would be enough to kill a zombie. Just because she hit him in the head doesn't mean that she hit the brain. But that's not my only problem here. We just saw a character with memory loss who performed something a little out of the ordinary against a zombie. She starts getting flashbacks again after performing that martial arts kick, but now that we saw a character deal with a zombie without a weapon like this, well, something doesn't feel right. Luckily, the dog keeper is carrying a handgun, and now Alice has to reach for it in hopes that he doesn't get back up and attack her while she gets up close to him. But then the zombie dog manages to break through the window, so she quickly grabs the gun but exits that room because I guess she didn't have enough time to react on an accurate shot. But now there are 7 zombie dogs in that area that she's in. So it's either go back and confront that one dog alone, or try and shoot these 7 zombie dogs with lightning reflexes. Which she actually does. Don't get me wrong, it's cool to see a character take on zombie dogs, but this is impossible. How the hell did she literally manage to shoot down 7 sprinting dogs without taking a single hit from any of them? The moment she shot the first dog, that's the moment she should have dropped as well. Nobody in this situation would have possibly survived it. Not even Chris or Jill would have survived this type of situation. I'm referring to classic Chris and Jill, not Resident Evil 5 Chris and Jill. So she empties the entire clip on all 7 zombie dogs. We get a shot of the bullet shell with the umbrella marked on it. Okay. And then for some reason there's another zombie dog in that room that was just watching everything that happened. After she noticed it, the dog notices her as well. But then we get another random Matrix scene with Alice where she does this. What the hell? Why did the director think that this should be in the movie? It's completely out of nowhere. It doesn't feel like we're watching a Resident Evil film anymore. Earlier during the big explosion scene and Alice's flashbacks, we were given a little insight on something important that went on before the incident occurred. That made sense as to why they included it, so we can get hints that should lead towards a big reveal in the end, right? But now the flashbacks are telling us that secretly Alice is a badass? That honestly disappoints me, because I was hoping that this entire experience she was going through was what made her character become a badass. Like with Sarah Connor in the first Terminator film, she went through one hell of an experience trying to survive against a Terminator, and that whole scenario was what turned Sarah Connor into a badass. But here, it turns out she was already a badass from the start? Great. Just when things were getting good. As much as it's cool to see a chick jump on 2 walls, turn around in midair, and kick a zombie dog in midair, this is not Resident Evil. Classic Resident Evil. How was she so sure that she was going to land this kick? How was she so sure that kicking the zombie dog once was going to instantly kill it? Because it worked with the zombie dog keeper? I know that if one of the mercenaries tried this, it wouldn't work. And they look like they would be the ones that are more experienced than her. Not a random female employee that's pretending to be married to Spence just to cover the fact that there is no secret Umbrella lab underneath that mansion. After kicking the dog, she gets that look in her face saying, "Oh my god, I wasn't aware that I could do that. Good thing it suddenly happened." And that was the big zombie dog reveal. It was handled in a very stupid way. What really sucks about this is that if she is capable of killing zombie dogs, which are far more dangerous than a regular zombie, but I mean capable of killing them without a weapon, then how the hell am I supposed to believe that this character is in any danger? If she was in the laser room with the rest of the mercenaries, you're telling me that she would have been pulling off those Leon the Chosen One Kennedy moves from Resident Evil 4's laser room? If that's the case, then Umbrella should have just sent in one mercenary to check up on Alice and let her in on everything that occurred so that she alone could go in and shut down the Red Queen. Maybe with the help of that one mercenary so that she can help her with carrying the device that would shut her down. Or did Umbrella's secrecy have no idea that they hired a woman with parkour skills and deadlier moves than Bruce Lee's? Man. You see what you've done, Paul? You just had to add that one moment of bullshit to your main character. And now I'm questioning everything about her, instead of being invested in the story and how will they survive in this situation. Everyone else is acting realistically, but Alice, our main character here, is the chosen one from the Matrix. This is the moment when Paul, the director of the movie franchise, decided to add some bullshit to the story and completely doom what lies ahead. We're gonna leave off here and continue the rest of the movie in the next part of the review. I will still try my ass off to find references and good things about this movie, but I know I'm in for a lot of disappointment up ahead. At least when it comes to the next movies based on this franchise.
No, we're getting out. All of us.
So, we're down to a third part on the first Resident Evil movie review. After Alice took down the zombie dogs, we see what Matt's been up to this whole time. And it turns out that he along with his sister were working together to take down Umbrella. He soon finds his zombified sister, and Alice shows up on time to kill her. She gets another flashback after seeing her face, and remembers that she was originally helping her retrieve the virus. He explains what their plan was, and believes that someone must have double-crossed them. This explains why Matt was being chased down by the mercenaries in the beginning. He must have been caught spying outside the mansion, but seeing as his sister was working on the inside to try to take down Umbrella, this must be a reference to Chris and Claire Redfield, as they are siblings and both try to take down Umbrella. The next thing they do is regroup with the other survivors. I don't know how they managed to get through the hordes of zombies that were blocking the entrance to the others, but they managed to do so. After regrouping, they discuss their options of survival. They are very low on ammunition, all exits are blocked, and they have no other option but to reactivate the Red Queen, as she could help them escape. In the end, they go with that option, and the Red Queen explains what happened and why she did what she had to do. They still think she's crazy, but it's actually very reasonable. The Red Queen agrees to help them, as they will shut her off with the remote they'll be carrying if she decides to be uncooperative. They make their way through the sewers of the Hive, which looks like it could be a reference to the sewers of Raccoon City from Resident Evil 2. They even use certain camera angles to resemble the ones used in the games, which is a neat surprise. As they make their way through the utility tunnels, suddenly, a horde of zombies start appearing from every direction, and while everyone tries to hold them off with a loosened fence wall, Alice is on her own busting brains with her super cool parkour skills and martial arts. I wonder if there's a deleted scene in here where Alice performs a Hadouken or Chun-Li's spinning bird kick. They then get to the top of the pipes above them, one by one, but the funny thing is that the most injured character here is the one that goes last. Almost like they hoped to use her as bait. JD shows up as a zombie, and it appears that he was so lucky that they only bit down on him and did not take chunks out of his flesh, like the George A. Romero zombies. Seriously though, that is what JD should have looked like. His appearance should have been just meat and bones after being devoured by a mosh pit of zombies in the elevator, making him only recognizable by his name tag. This looks like they just bit down on him and scratched him a few times. But anyways, Rain hesitates to shoot him, as well as every other zombie hesitating to attack her, and JD proceeds to bite her on the neck. Kaplan and Rain got bit trying to get on top of the pipes, but so far, they're still alive. So this whole scene was pretty cool, but the intensity was ruined by seeing Alice easily dispose of a horde of zombies without a weapon. Not at all like in the games. If she did it with a combat knife, then it might have been something else. But look at how easy she kills some of these zombies. Everyone else is panicking in the background, spazzing out, trying to get on top of the pipes, and Alice doesn't really look like she's having a problem. They continue to make their way by the pipes, but suddenly they reach an area where their weight cannot be supported, and it breaks down, dropping Kaplan with the rest of the zombies below them. Alice managed to jump to safety, but what she should have done was fall with Kaplan and beat the crap out of every zombie surrounding him instead of telling Rain to help him when she's the one in critical condition. Alice eventually takes Rain's gun and shoots the zombie that was attacking Kaplan. He can no longer reach them on the other side, so he tells him to go on without him. He only has one bullet left, and for a moment there, he's about to use it on himself, but prefers to continue on to find a way on his own. They finally reach the floor that was flooded, meaning that they're very close to the train station that could take them to the mansion. As they proceed through these wet, empty halls, we see that the liquor has reached the location of JD's corpse. Interesting to see that the liquor is following them, kind of like the game bosses such as Mr. X and the Nemesis, how they continue to follow you throughout the game. As they continue through this area, Alice starts to remember a little bit more about the Umbrella Lab they're in, and she remembers that they created an antivirus. So before they leave, now they must retrieve the transport case containing both the T-virus and antivirus. They reach the room where the virus and antivirus were kept, but it's not there anymore. This is where we get a neat surprise. Spence is now starting to remember a few things himself, and he remembers that it was him who contaminated the lab and created this mess in the first place, all so that he can take the virus for himself and sell it for a high price on the black market. He was the one that double-crossed them in exposing Umbrella's illegal work. Alice realizes that he was the one who took the virus, but Spence now has the handgun, and he lets them in on the surprise. He offers Alice to join him and get filthy rich selling the virus, but she refuses to take part in his evil plan. Luckily, a zombie silently emerges from the water and approaches Spence from behind, biting him on the neck. He quickly puts 2 bullets on her and almost gets taken down by Matt, but gets a good distance with a handgun, so they prefer not to get any closer to him and allow him to escape. He locks them in that area and heads towards the train station. Right away, the Red Queen reveals to them that she's been a bad girl.
I've been a bad girl.
Okay. Spence reaches the train station and prepares to inject himself with the antivirus. But suddenly, the liquor appears from above him and jumps down on Spence. Matt, Alice, and Rain are shown by the Red Queen that Spence was attacked by the liquor, and she then explains to them that this creature was created by Umbrella. But one thing I don't like that they do here is make the liquor instantly mutate after tasting human blood. I understand that liquors evolve, but they never mutated after tasting human blood. Every liquor has surely tasted new DNA, but they wouldn't mutate because of it, unless there was something special there. I guess it's the best way to introduce the evolved liquor here, but it doesn't even look like the evolved liquor. This version is more quadruped. The evolved liquor is darker, bigger, and has extended claws. That's all they had to do. I think it was okay that they went with this quadruped version, just because if they had to stick with the regular liquor design, then the liquor would surely be a CGI creature the entire time because of the way it moves. However, even though I hate CGI because everyone relies on it too much, I gotta say that this liquor looks very detailed, almost practical. So whoever designed it did a fantastic job. So instead of being glad that it mutated because that new version was actually made with practical effects, for once I had to choose the CGI liquor version over the quadruped version. But either way, this design doesn't look bad at all. It actually looks more terrifying, to be honest. The liquor is now stronger, bigger, and faster, which really shows as it rapidly appears in the room next to the survivors. The Red Queen tells them that she will give them the 4-digit code required to open the door to their exit, but she will only do it if they kill Rain because she's infected. Alice decides to break the display screen from the Red Queen instead, and then the Red Queen shuts down. But not because Alice broke that screen, but because Kaplan was still alive and he used the remote control to shut her down. They exit the room before the liquor breaks in and make their way to the train station where Spence's body lies next to the transport case. Alice grabs the transport case and kills the reanimated corpse of Spence. They get in the train and proceed to exit the Hive. Now that everyone can rest assured that they will not be locked inside the quarantine hive, Alice gives Rain the antivirus. Matt gives Kaplan the antivirus as well, and suddenly they're attacked by the liquor once again. It climbs aboard and slashes through the wall, cutting Matt on his shoulder. Sadly, Kaplan gets taken down right away, which is a bit disappointing considering the major struggles that he went through. As they try and handle the situation, Rain suddenly gets up and it appears that the antivirus had no effect on her, and she proceeds to attack Matt while Alice tries to deal with the liquor. Not gonna lie, this scene is awesome. These characters are just about to exit the hive when their numbers start to drop before they can even make it into the mansion. In the end, they managed to kill the liquor in a very creative way, and only Alice and Matt got to reach the mansion alive. But as they make their way through the mansion, Matt's arm starts acting up, and the infection he received from the liquor begins to mutate. But before Alice can inject him with the antivirus, a group of Umbrella employees in hazmat suits show up and separate the two. I don't understand why Alice doesn't start breaking some bones right now. Did she forget that zombies are more dangerous than these guys? So one of the doctors mentions that he's mutating, so they should put him in the Nemesis program, letting us in on Matt's fate for the next movie. Another thing that's surprising to me now is that we get a close look at one of the doctors, and he turns out to be played by Jason Isaacs, which was known as the narrator and William Birkin. So it appears that William Birkin did in fact make an appearance in a Resident Evil film. It's a real shame that they did not utilize him wisely, as he is immediately killed off. I'm assuming, as along with everyone else in that building, except for Alice of course. She then gets up, she's locked in that room, but that doesn't become a problem as she easily lockpicks her way out of that puzzle. She puts something on, walks out of the building, and it turns out that the entire city has been under attack. Alice finds a shotgun, gets ready for another outbreak. The camera zooms out and we see all the destruction we missed out on. And that's when the movie comes to an end. So finally, that's the end of the first Resident Evil film. Seeing how this movie turned out, a lot of characters could have been actual characters from the video games. Matt does look like the perfect character to portray Chris Redfield. I wish they had simply gone with that in mind, and maybe by the end he would reveal that the entire time he was going undercover and his real name is Chris Redfield. That would be a major surprise, meaning that Claire actually died in the movie version of the franchise, and Chris went on to become the nemesis of this version. I'm guessing that would be better than the Chris and Claire that we got in the later movie sequels. I know you could simply just give us the real Chris and Claire Redfield with their actual video game backgrounds, but in movie logic, I guess that's just impossible to pull off. He does have the same haircut, similar personality, he even has a sister that was working with him to try and take down Umbrella. Is there a chance that the film series was meant to be closer to the game's roots and was meant to end with the second film? There's one thing they mention in the beginning of Matt's introduction as well, and it's that he just became a cop for the RPD, and that's why they probably don't have him on their files. This was a big reference to Leon S. Kennedy, as he had just become a police officer for the Raccoon City Police Department, so Matt could have also been Leon Kennedy. After all, the ending let us know that they were going to skip Resident Evil 2 and go straight to the outbreak represented in Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. Kaplan was my favorite character in the movie. He reminded me of Brad Vickers and Richard Eichen. Brad because he couldn't work under pressure and he was scared most of the time, and Richard Eichen because even after he is revealed to be alive and they give him the antivirus, they still easily kill him off when the liquor catches up to them. I think that if anyone should have walked out of there alive, it should have been Kaplan. That way he would get killed off by the nemesis like Brad Vickers. He went through the most dangerous encounters though. He deserved to survive. Not Alice. I know she's a protagonist, but I didn't really find anything likable about the character. She was very quiet and awkward. I'm not sure if it's a mix between Mila's acting, the writing, or if the director told her to act like an android, but the main character just didn't work for me. She should have been a side character instead. And if she was considered to be a side character and they don't even edit anything out from the movie, surely you would actually think that she is a side character. It's a real damn shame that the entire movie franchise of the Resident Evil live action films are centered around Alice. This movie entertained me from start to finish, but it wasn't Alice that saved this movie. It was everything else except for our protagonist. I only wonder what we could have gotten if the role was given to someone else. If only we had actually gotten sequels with a different protagonist instead of the same character from the first film. But even though the video game similarities we got were only small Easter eggs and not a big part of the actual story, the movie is still enjoyable for both fans and non-fans of the Resident Evil franchise. I highly recommend you guys check this movie out if you haven't seen it yet. And with that said, that's it for the video. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button to give this video a chance to grow. I'd like to thank all my Patreon supporters for their impeccable generosity. Your support means a lot to me, and you are part of the reason why I try to make the best content that I can. And if you like this content, check out the rest of my channel. You'll find more entertainment from separate franchises I like to cover, such as Mortal Kombat, Dragon Ball Z, Celebrity Deathmatch, Men in Black, The Mask, Batman comics, The Terminator, TMNT, Dino Crisis, Resident Evil, and more. If you're a Patreon supporter, check out my exclusive videos such as the Gantz content. And if you'd like to show your support, go to my Patreon and support the channel, which is only $1. Sacrifice that McChicken for extra quality content, my friend. But anyways, I'll see you all in the next video, and remember to have an awesome day.